So here is my client's before, and as you can see, she has a lot of breakage around her face, and her top layer is very short. This is the aftermath of her doing a platinum card with 20 volume twice in a row on the same day. Obviously there's going to be damage and breakage, especially when Olaplex is not added to our mix, so this is our starting point for this client. So our goal for this client today is going to get rid of that harsh line of her regrowth of where she's been just doing bleach on the scalp appointment, break it up with some baby lights, and also adding in a little bit of dimension throughout her mids and ends. And we're gonna add a root smudge so it's not a harsh line like she's previously had, just so it's gonna be able to grow out and kind of have a break over time. So what we have mixed up is Coldwell Oxycure. You guys know that I always use this lightener. It is my ride or die. I have 2 bowls of 20 volume, one for me and one for Megan. That's what we're gonna be using on the interior of her hair. And then we're gonna be using Coldwell Oxycure with 10 volume for her hairline, just because obviously those have the most damage, and that hairline is going to be the most fragile part of her hair. And of course, in both of our mixtures, we are adding in 1/16 of Olaplex for our insurance, our safety policy, just to make sure we don't damage her hair any further. So I am going to start off by baby lighting a little bit on her hairline with that 10 volume, just to break it up and also keep it a little bit brighter around her face. My goal for this with my foil placement is I kind of want to go and color everywhere you can see, but not really touch the interior of her hair, just so that it can feel and look as full and thick as possible. Obviously when clients have damage, it is super important to not color their hair as much, but what we have game planned is that she is just going to do color one last time, where she's not going to have such a harsh grow out, and she's going to be growing her hair out for a little over a year just to get it back nice and healthy, getting trims, getting Olaplex treatment. She's a stylist herself, so I know she knows how to take care of her hair, and I know she's going to be doing a good job over the next year as it's growing out. My rule of thumb whenever it comes to anyone who is below a level 5 is to not take direct slices off of their hairline whenever you're trying to do their money piece or their face frame. I just think that it comes off a little bit too harsh. That's why I'm going in with a 10 volume and doing a few micro baby lights. Just having a little bit of depth with that dropout is going to help keep it nice and blended with her natural color. Also, since her goal is to grow out her hair, I don't want it to be a huge chunk in the front or a streak as it's growing out. And for this process, I want to make sure, you guys, that I am being so precise. Luckily, since I was talking about she has had previously bleach on the scalp, there's going to be a straight line telling me where her regrowth meets those previously lightened ends, and as we know, those are brittle. We don't want to color those. I'm not overlapping at all, not even the tiniest bit. So I'm going through, really saturating right to where that line is at, stopping there, folding my foil to my advantage, where I'm going to make sure that when I fold my foil up from the bottom, that her ends aren't going to be touching that bleach. I'm going to be locking in every foil because I do not want these guys to slip, move, nothing. I even told her, do not touch your foils. I cannot risk any of this getting on your ends. This is a risky process. She totally understood, and I just wanted to be as safe as possible. And another way you'll see me here kind of using my comb to push out those blonde ends before I fold up every foil, just to ensure again that I'm not getting any lightener on those lightened ends. And as her hair's growing out, I know she's going to be wearing her hair up a lot, so what I'm going to be doing is just doing 2 foils right here above her ear. Since she is going to be having pretty big gaps in between her coloring services, I want to ensure if she pulls her hair up as it's growing out, it's still going to be nice and bright up under there as well. I'm going to be leaving out everything, however, between the curvature of her head and the top of the second foil. Something that is super important to keep in mind whenever you are foiling is to make sure you have tension. Tension, tension, tension. This is going to help give you a nice, tight, and clean foil. It's going to keep the foil in place, and I want to make sure that those foils aren't moving anywhere like I was saying, just so I have a nice and clean application. Also, this is going to help not have any tiger stripes or bleed marks. So now we can move on to her hairline up top where her money piece would be. Now we're not doing a traditional money piece where it's going to be a super pop piece in the front, just a little bit lighter, and I am still using that 10 volume with Olaplex. And what we're going to be doing is the same thing, baby lighting, so it's not too harsh. She's not going to have a huge pop right here because I don't want it to be too dramatic whenever it's growing out, this streak in the front, so it's going to stay nice and blended. By working on this angle, we're working on the curvature of her hair, and what that means is it's going to fall really naturally. It's going to seem as if these highlights were done at the beach, even though we know that's not possible, but that's the effect we want with natural lived-in looking colors. Something else I want you guys to notice is as I'm working my way back doing those back-to-back baby lights, I'm kind of pivoting my foil. So the right side of my foil is going to be moving backwards more towards the interior of her hair. That's going to be pushing brightness more towards her face, which we are wanting even though we're not wanting a bold money piece. And then also I'm taking more of like a slice towards where her part is just to ensure there is a little bit more brightness, even though it's still at the end going to seem very seamless and very blended. Another trick I have for helping me not overlap is if the hair is too short, instead of just pushing it to one side, I will split it right down the middle and push the right side to the right, the left side to the left, and then fold my foil just to ensure that there's not any overlap of product. So I'm going to be continuing this same foil placement on her hairline to the other side of her hair, and then I'm actually going to be jumping to the back of her head with the camera just so you guys can get a shot of what Megan is doing in the back. As far as what we're tackling in the back is, we've done a square section that's more of like a sideways, like rectangle where it's longer from top to bottom instead of side to side, if that makes any sense. What I've decided to do is wherever her shortest layer is, I want to go a little bit below that because obviously those shorter layers are going to kind of fly with the wind, and she also has cowlicks that we're dealing with, and I want to make sure that when her hair splits open for any reason, whether it's from her cowlick, the wind, whatever, that the color still seems like the same overall color everywhere, even though we're not tackling too much of the interior of her hair. I know that was a lot, so I hope it makes sense. So the way that I determined this is where her cowlick splits, I went 3 fingers lengths below that, and that's how we carved off our section by measuring. And we are just doing straight up horizontal baby lights back to back with the 20 volume Oxycure straight up. Now that I have completed that entire hairline, Megan's going to continue working on that back section, and what I'm going to be doing is connecting those little face framing highlights that we've done by doing a highlight right in between it where those foils kind of kiss and come together. This is going to help everything stay blended. I'm still doing the same rule of thumb of baby lighting just so everything's even around everywhere, and then I'm going to be jumping into 2 side panels divided by her part. And I know color corrections can be such a scary thing, but something I always try to keep in mind is that every foil, every ounce of color, every drop of color, I should say, that touches her head has a purpose. I know it's easy to overthink situations like this, and I know it can be scary and a risky thing to be coloring hair that is compromised, but I promise you, if you go in with a game plan, know what you're doing, and continue that game plan throughout, being very precise, it's going to have a great result. Alright, so now I am moving on to more of the mohawk area, and I'm going to be going on a slight diagonal all the way back. The reason I'm doing this is because it works with the curvature of her hair, like I was saying before, and it's going to lay the most natural. Since we are going for a more natural lived-in look, so it has a nice, easy, and soft grow out, this is going to give us the best result. I'm still doing the same sectioning, the same weave pattern, I'm just doing it on a slight angle throughout this mohawk section on both sides. Something that is extremely important whenever you are working with a lower developer and a darker canvas is to let the lightener sit and to make sure you're saturating. So we're gonna let it sit for a while. I'd rather it go low and slow, because slow and steady wins the race, like I was saying. But going at a slow pace is going to ensure the integrity of her hair, which is our main concern. And making sure your saturation is on point is going to ensure that the lightener doesn't dry out and quit processing to where it doesn't get as light as we are wanting. Usually for techniques like this, I don't take the lightener all the way up to the root, but I am on this scenario. The reason being is because I want her to get maximum lift, and I must break up her base in a sense to where her highlights are as far up as possible, just to ensure that she gets longevity out of this color. The reason I wouldn't take the lightener all the way to the roots if it was a different client is because I wouldn't want to kind of erase the work that I'm doing. If I go through, take the lightener to the root, and then just kind of erase it with a root shadow, it's kind of defeating the purpose of taking the lightener all the way up to the root, and it's kind of just an example of how you can work smarter instead of harder. Whenever you're working on a slight diagonal in the mohawk section, you're usually left with this awkward triangular section. So what I'm going to be doing is kind of working smarter instead of harder and just going straight back horizontally like you would on a traditional mohawk pattern and filling in the foils like that. To break it up a little bit more, since she does have like a platinum card look, she's got the little harsh line that we've eliminated, I kind of want to break up her ends a little bit as well. So I'm going through about every third foil and just breaking it up by taking that dropout from our highlight and weaving it and just throwing in a low light. The formula I am using is 7N, 7G, and 7NB. 7N kind of being our main tone that we're wanting because her hair is so porous from being damaged. I don't want it to go too dark. 7G to fill the hair, and then 7NB kind of acts almost a little bit as a filler, but also it's going to be acting as just a tone that we want to deposit. So after this client has processed, you can see that she really did get a good even lift, which we are so excited about. What we've done is taken her back to the bowl, clarified her hair with Unite Weekender shampoo to make sure that everything is stripped out, any impurities, any buildup, and especially all of the lightener that we applied to her hair, just to ensure that this toner that we're throwing on now is going to be nice and even. What we're rooting her with is Goldwell 6A, and the reason that I chose to use Goldwell is because I really want to make sure that this root shows up. She wants longevity out of this color, and I think that it's just got a little bit more coverage and pigment to it compared to Redken Shades EQ, which is also a rooting go-to of mine. And of course, we're gonna go through after this root is applied and use our blending comb to drag down the product a little bit just so you get that perfect blend. After her base root has sat for 5 minutes, I went through and tapped her money pieces out, and we're gonna let her process for a total of 10 minutes. The reason that I wanna do this, I don't wanna go past 10 minutes because it's going to kind of go too dark, and I just wanna leave it on long enough to where it actually sticks. And then I also wanna have a brighter appearance around her face because everybody wants that. And then it's time to formulate her toner. I use 9P, 9V, 9GB, 9GI, 8GI, and 8V, and I'll break it down. The counteracting tones that are going to counteract warmth are 9P, 9V, and 8V, and then our depositing tones that's going to add pigment and the color we want are the 9GB, 9GI, and 8GI. Whenever you're mixing a few ashy tones with a few warm tones, it's going to kind of neutral out and be a neutral tone. I did lose the footage of toning her at the bowl, but we went, rinsed out the root, applied the toner, and we did leave it on for about 10 minutes for processing, and then it's time to blow dry her. So my sweet butter bean, I love her, Kaylee, is going to be giving her a really good blowout, and what we're going to be doing actually for the cherry on top is applying some tape-in extensions to the front to add fullness, and then at the end all we'll have to do is style her up, cut the extensions to her length. It's going to be perfect. I can't wait for you guys to see. Make sure you let me know what you think about this video, this transformation, this technique, this formula, everything. I want to hear it down in the comments below. Thank you guys again for watching. Don't forget to follow me over on Instagram, and I will catch you on the next color tutorial.